Can it be the sad design to be the very same? A woolly man without a face and a beast without a name. Nothing more.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:33. My name is Scott Redler. I am the Chief Strategic Officer, founder of T3Live.com, and I'm also the founder of Red Dog Mindset. What are you guys doing? Hopefully you're working. Hopefully you're getting prepared. Hopefully you're making some money. You know, and everyone on Twitter is talking about how they were long full their entire account in Microsoft, their entire account in Meta. If they were, they'd probably be on the beach or in the mountains because those two names had huge gap ups. Just when everyone said the reaction to earnings have been horrible, let's all get bearish, the market likes to confuse everybody. You know, you can't listen to everyone that you speak to. You just got to figure out your process, your plan, your time frame, and do what you have to make some money in stack days. But anyway, with that being said, the Fed is behind us. We're moving through the week. It is Thursday. I know for me, I'll be honest, it's a little frustrating week. A week ago, I was at the highs of everything, all my 7 accounts, and then all my T3 accounts too, where I get paid quarterly. And then, the last week's been a little bit of a bleed. It's been a little bit trickier. I know, but guys on Twitter like, I'm going to cash, I'm going short. I think the other day, I don't know who it was, is like, I'm going to full cash. Let me tell you why, And now I bet she's going to say he was in Meta and Microsoft. But anyway, transparency is king. And at this point, here we are. The SPYs right now are opening up at new all-time high, up 6, above 638. We'll see how much of today's gap it holds. Do they sell the strength here, or do we come in and do we have another gap to then base some trades off of? Same thing in the Qs. And at least, just because you have less risk on doesn't mean you need to be short. I know guys that went out all short and have been shorting for like 2 weeks, saying this isn't going to end well. And P.S. here we are at 641 and they're hoping for bad news. For me, yes, I've been accumulating some UVXY calls for, mid-August and September. And that's just a trade. At least my risk is defined. As traders, you must define your risk. So with that being said, take a deep breath. It's another day. Every day above ground is a good day. And just try and make some of the right decisions at the right time. And we'll see where we are moving forward. So here we are. Here are, above the high, how much of today's gap holds. Qs are the same thing. If you look at the Qs, all the Qs did is, hold the 8-day yesterday. The Qs right now are up 8. Wow. If you've been shorting tech the whole way up, thinking the market's going to broaden out, you're getting clock cleaned. It's one thing like trying to play other sectors, play some options for money rotation. But if you're shorting strong trends, if you're shorting when something's above the 8-day to 21-day, chances are you're not feeling so good. But anyway, whatever you're in, when a gap is in your favor, you always trim and trail. Trim and trail. Take some profits and then figure out what's happening here. So anyway, these are where the indices are, but obviously not everything is created equal. As far as Meta, wow. Meta was really tight. I showed you guys the 3 pivots. If you didn't take a call spread into numbers and you did have, a quick multiple seconds, to be a buyer at 725, 730, went through 723, 737, 747. Those were your after hour pivots. There are guys that trade after hours that don't take options and turn it and say, I'm reading through, it looked freaking fantastic. And, you could have bought a ton through there or whatever, or not. Or you could have taken a call spread, or you could have done anything, or you're not in it. You're not in it, you're not in it. It is what it is. Move on. If you've been a buyer of Meta and you're an investor, congratulations. Congratulations. Wealth could be made in the stock market through investing, through trading, through a 401k. You could pay for college with a 529. There's lots of ways to make money in the stock market. I list 7 accounts on how I approach the market. I've been doing this 30 years, and all 7 accounts didn't start at the same time. They get built through experience. They get built through hard work. Okay. Remember the Blood in the Street account that got put to work when the market was down 10% off the highs and 20% off the highs? But anyway, at this point, if you're not in Meta, you probably can't buy it now. Doesn't mean it's an easy short. What we're going to do is we're going to see, does Meta put it its high in the first 5, 15, 30 minutes and then bleed down all day? Or does it come in, give you a pivot to buy against, and then close at the highs? We don't know. That's my initial thought process there. Same thing with Microsoft. Microsoft's opening up 8% at a new all-time high. Wow. What you guys really should do, which I was reading through, read through the actual statements by the CEO of Microsoft and Zuckerberg from Meta, and looking through their lens. These are the smartest guys in the world about what they think of moving forward the next few years, the next few trends. It's kind of crazy. We can't control what the trends in AI. We can't control super intelligence and what AI will be able to do, and some of the craziness it's going to create, and some of the awesomeness it's going to create. But you could actually learn how to use it. So I know for me, I have a chat. I have the chat on. Whatever it is on my phone, and I put images and they reword it and I ask for stuff. But I need to take a course or two, because all these kids in college are learning how to use all this stuff. And if you're an old dog with no new tricks, you're going to be left behind. So anyway, got to keep learning. But anyway, will the high be put in the first 5, 15, 30 minutes in Microsoft and Meta or not? There are some guys that are going to say, oh, Red Dog, I'm fading the open. Okay, it might work. You might be able to short versus a level. Like just say Microsoft goes to 560, comes back in, and the market goes up and it doesn't take out that high. You could short versus 560, take your hands off the keys, and maybe you make 8, 9, 10 points and you make your daily bread or whatever it is you're going to make. Same thing with Meta. If you're like, hey, this isn't going to be an exhaustion gap. The high of Meta is coming in today. Well, probably not, but it goes to just say 782, comes off that. You have a point of reference, so you quantify your risk and short versus that. So there's going to be a lot of ways to do it. Or you say, listen, I'm just going to let Microsoft and Meta put in their trade for the day because everyone in the world is trading and it's going to be really hard to do. Let the candle get established, and then you could trade it tomorrow and use strategies that we've implement, moving forward, whether it's a big pro earnings gap and you could buy versus that pivot and let it digest and go, or all of a sudden puts a high and has a big topping tail, then trades into the gap and you could short there. There'll be a lot of ways to make money, but if you obsess on missing something or you got caught listening to someone else or whatever it is, then you got to figure your way out. But anyway, that's that. So everyone's now like, Red Dog, what about Amazon now? I'm like, well, I did buy Amazon after hours, so I'm feeling kind of good about that. I've made a lot of money in Amazon this year. My question is, do I want to play this for earnings now also? Do I want to, just because, all of this, is taking place, can Amazon do the same thing? I think, there's a good chance it can. It's a 238. Okay, so it's not through the highs of the year. It also, has lagged over the course of the past, I think, 4 years. So it'd be nice if Jeff doesn't come and suffocate the day after earnings like he always does. And here's your pivot at 240, 250. So if you want to take a 240 by 250 call spread, thinking it's going to be over 250 tomorrow, it's quantified. That's a realistic call spread. You could probably, and then if it closes over 250, it's maxed out and they take it away. Or you could do a lotto type of play. A lot of lotto money out there yesterday. A lot of money in Meta and Microsoft. I didn't play it. I feel, it is what it is. But, so Amazon, I think, has potential there to do that. Apple, what a pain. I have 220 calls on that I thought when Apple was looking better that it was going to get through this 217, and I was wrong. But guess what? It's premium paid. I was in shares also here, and I got stopped out. Better to get stopped out than just have an opinion. If you have an opinion in trading, you can get your clock cleaned and get put out of business. But anyway, we'll see moving forward. What the story is there. You still have a lot of information coming out at 8:30. Doesn't look like the Fed's going to be cutting rates anytime soon. But stock market's at all-time highs. They haven't had to cut rates to get at all-time highs. Don't believe the commentators out there like, we're gonna crash if we don't get rates cut. Right now, that's not the case. Anyway, what else? Did you hear what's it called? The CEO of Microsoft said about quantum, saying it's going to be the next thing to enhance AI. I actually got stopped out of quantum. IONQ got me out. Okay, but doesn't mean I might not go back to it. If it gaps up and holds it, maybe I'll buy versus that, and then maybe it needed more time. Could always revisit trades. Always revisit. Same thing with QBTS. That too, had a false little breakout. So maybe it gaps up, holds, and then continues at some point. So anyway, you could always revisit trades because who knows, if they would have missed, these things would have been down and you would have had more slippage and more whatever. Google, by the way, Google's flat. I'll tell you, they're going to try and sell Google a little bit because maybe it wasn't as robust as some of the others. But Google hasn't done a whole lot. Google is going to remain on my go-to list. I'm going to stay with it. I'm long Google. I'll buy more of it, and at some point, I think it takes out this 198, and we're going to be in the 200s, and there's going to be a good money trade there. But that's just like a thought. If all of a sudden Google breaks, just say 194-ish, then I got to know what I can handle. But I'm going to stay with Google, and I do think that it hasn't done a whole hell of a lot. As far as like if you look at the weekly chart, it's just back to where it was. It's still in this channel. So look at Google's weekly chart. Okay, it's still just getting back to where it was, so it's still in a big channel. And where you look at Microsoft's, Microsoft's been at dead highs, and it's opening up here. So Microsoft, wow, what a trade! I remember when they said Microsoft is where money goes to die, and that was like during the 2001 to 2010. You know why? Because Microsoft was the leader in the roaring 80s and the go-go 90s. So every now and then, everything needs a consolidation. Okay, needs to wear everybody out, and that's what Microsoft did. But anyway, and it did it again here. So Microsoft is gonna, has already done that. So Amazon hasn't done that either, really. Amazon also, had a breakout. This is the weekly. So Amazon hasn't had one of those moves. Meta kind of has on the weekly. Meta actually Meta really just came back up here, and it's above it. But these names have created a lot of wealth, and everyone wants to complain about. By the way, remember this? Remember when Kramer cried because he sold it down here? This is when we were really playing Meta. But anyway, let's talk about today. Let's talk about today. So bottom line is, I do think Google, can still be accumulated. I still think Google can go sideways, and I think at some point, if we hold up here and if we open up today, now the Bears are saying today's going to be the exhaustion gap everywhere. We'll see. I doubt it. There's still going to be a lot of things to do, but I think, you could probably nibble in some Google, let the 8-day catch up, and it's going to take that out. And I think Amazon is in the game where, it could have, a nice move. This is 240, 250. Why can't this see 250? I know, it's come a long way. We've been buying dips here, but, I might take something there. Remember last week on Thursday, I think we did the 6:30 club. I'm like, hey guys, it was after Google did their capex. They said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy. If you think the market's going up next week, I'm going to buy the 175 calls for NVIDIA, which was right here. I think it could take it out. And that was another nice trade. Wasn't a money trade like getting through 146, but that was a nice trade. And I did sell the rest of it yesterday. Felt good then. And just because NVIDIA's up another 3, am I like, I suck. I'm going to bang my head against the wall. No, I made money, and I probably could have left a little bit. So anyway, I got 58 comments. My goodness gracious, everybody has something to say. All right, so let's see what everyone's saying on wherever they are. You could be on YouTube, you could be on Twitter. Amazon needs to be as good as Meta and Microsoft. Okay, yeah, it probably won't be as good, but I think it could be enough to take that out. Rolls-Royce has been a good trade. APLD, Kenneth Rosenberg is saying 37% of the float is short. CVNA, oh my God. ASTS needs to break 60 at some point. I was buying it back in the 52 area. Am I in A-Lab? I'm not. Yo, Red Dog, I haven't seen Rolls-Royce. Mr. Today, we'll see what that is. Baidu has been horrible. I had FXI on, Tiger on, and Baidu on as my China trades. FXI tripled to me. Baidu, I had a good trade, and then I bought it back, and it was horrible. I'm out of it. I lost money there. Risk is premium paid. It is what it is. Tesla's been not special. Apple, pain in the ass. CRWV, maybe. I tried it yesterday and it was still weak. Maybe you have a gap up in CRWV to trade against. Yes, Oklo, those have been great trends. Listen, looks like everyone's moving and grooving and making great money. That's what it's been a great market. It's been a great market for those looking for setups, not looking for tops. If you look for tops, it's been a lot tougher for you. This past week I was a little hesitant and it cost me a lot of money. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm gonna move on. Some people are like, what about Hood? I think Hood numbers were absolutely fantastic, and I think that just has come a long way. They're gonna try and say it's priced in, and at some point, let's see if it could like hold this area and then it continue. It's already had a big move. right here is when you had the last gap and go and took out 67.13. What's Hood doing this morning? It's down 70 cents. Don't lose sight of Hood just because it maybe doesn't go up and make a new all-time high today. What they were probably doing is just sucking all the option premium out, and not everything could be, you know, how much money option specialists are losing in Meta right now. You know how many people took some lottos and they're getting paid, and the option guys have to cover that. Same thing for Meta. It didn't work with Hood. That's why sometimes through earnings season, you have to decide, are you going to play 5 to 10 earnings plays, where you're risking, 2 to make 8, 3 to make 15, because usually a few of them don't work and 1 or 2 of them make up for everything and then some. If you only pick one here or one there and you're like, I'm not going to waste money on this, which is kind of the approach that I had this earnings season because I was up so much prior, then, if you picked Robinhood and didn't pick these two, it is what it is. You're picking and choosing. But anyway, I do think that this is like 102-ish. Let it settle out, and then at some point Robinhood's going to continue. So that's pretty good. Yes, Kenneth says that the Microsoft CEO spoke about quantum yesterday. He did, and the things that these guys are saying are pretty crazy. What's going to happen in this world in the next few years. By the way, you can't control that. You can't. All you can control is learning how it happens and learning how you could embrace it, and it could become a part of your life to make your life better and maybe even make you some money. Anyway, you bought 1,800 shares of Roblox at the end of the day yesterday. All right, that's a lot of shares, and it's up 4, making some good money. By the way, Nelvis has been pretty good with his ideas. Not so bad. So anyway, Netflix looked better yesterday. It's down a little bit because it's not in the basket of buying with Microsoft and Meta. Someone asked me, do I think 1162 is going to hold? I think so. It's down 4. Maybe you could look there today. But again, don't revenge things. Don't just short Meta because it's at 780.50 or Microsoft. If you're in it, manage your trade and let it show you that, hey, maybe the high is going to be put in the first. What could happen is Meta could pull into 771 and then hold there, and the market comes in, it goes to 773, and then you could buy versus that gap, pivot, and then if it closes strong, that's your way in. You got to figure out how to get involved if you want to get involved, or just, again, let the candle situate. ARM, I have an ARM call spread on. It's going to lose. I thought it was a nice setup. They didn't deliver. Right? Doesn't this look like a nice setup? Doesn't this look like mass accumulation? Doesn't look like if it would have traded above 169 and 182, it could have taken out 188. Didn't do it. I know a lot of people were buying the shares, saying, I'm going to buy the shares. It's going to go. It's ready. So instead, I bought a call spread. I think 175 by 185. It cost me $2 to maybe make 8. I'll do that all day long. Okay? Didn't work. Here's what it is. I'm going to move on. I'll make my money by grinding like I always do. Anyway, I do think you could accumulate Google. I would think it's very highly unlikely it's going to break this 194-ish and then go sideways and be a good setup. You got to think what's the setups moving forward. You can't dwell on what you missed. That's a potential. Amazon, I'm going to trim a little bit this morning and then think about what I want to do into tomorrow, because now the bar is raised a lot higher. It might not be enough, so we have to think about that. What else? So yeah, XBI, pain in the butt sector. Some guys like Red Dog, I know you tried to find some alpha, you tried to find a trade with it's been a pain. If I would have just, instead of accumulating this, just bought the dip in the Qs again or the SPYs again, it would have made me a lot more money. I get it. What's the XBI doing this morning? It's down 13 cents. So not everything is created equal. It's really a very specific have and have nots trade. And we were in all the haves up until like last week. And then last week, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be cuter than everyone else. I'm going to accumulate the XBI. I'm going to accumulate the XLE instead of sticking with what was working because everyone said what had to happen. Anyway, you could change gears a little bit here. And so Kenny keeps talking about APLD. Okay, you want me to put that up? All right, so this is APLD Digital. Okay, let's see what's it doing this morning. APLD, it's up $2.34. That's a nice move. Okay, let's see, where is it? What does it need to hold? Where could it go? First, let's see if the gap holds, right? Let's see if if the high is made in the first 5, 15, 30 minutes, or it consolidates and goes. So this is 1237. So it's already above this spot. So it's gapping above here, which is good. What's your next point of reference? Is 15. So this is a nice base here, actually, if you think about it. It's been going sideways for a while. I know Nvidia has money invested here. So if you're long it, first thing you have to do is you have to trim a little bit just to book some, and then see what today's low is, and then buy verse that, and then see if this, pro gap or pro earnings gap leads to a move back towards the highs at some point. That's how I would do it, Ken. And if you're in it already and you're making money, congratulations. Go, that's cool. What do I think about crypto? Crypto's still hanging in there. I have options, IBIT that I bought, thinking that at some point, not as much. I don't have as much as I had here. I had a lot of IBIT $62 calls for July 4th for that week and the week after. Now I'm just trying to participate a little bit. I do have some Ethereum shares on, ETHE shares. At some point, I think it gets above 32 and takes that out. A lot of institutional money needs to be put to work at both of those. Let's see what people are saying right now. Wow, there's a lot of people. People are up. People are feisty. The question is, had Zuck learned spending discipline? That's not really the question. XLE, yes, XLE is kind of a pain. XLE did exactly what it always does. Thank goodness I bought some down here, thinking that maybe you can get up to the, the range, got back up to resistance and failed like it's done every other time. XLE is gonna have to really reclaim 87.13 to do something different, to show that maybe some flows are going there, because as of right now, it's still a laggard. It's a massive underperformer, and it's been better to be in everything else, right? But you could have made money if you bought it differently. I bought the options here, and you were able to trim some into resistance, and now, does it reclaim 87.13, or are people fed up again? That's what I would say about that. ACHR was a pain also. These drone names came back further than you would have thought. We made a lot of money in this, a lot, here. So, this was part of my bleed. I bought a lot of this, and it went up as high as almost 14. I got out of like 75% of that, and I thought maybe it would hold here. It didn't. So I kept 25%, right? You got to keep a trailer on just in case. And then I bought a little bit back, and then it came right back into the lower end of the base and wasn't special. These things might need more time to get some big orders and, get prime time. So, I made really good money on 75% and lost on the other 25%. But when you lose on 12, 14 positions, or you have a few of these, it hurts. But that's the, it's the day in the life of a swing trader besides just a day trader also. Let's see. Everyone's still talking. Marvel. Yeah, Marvel. Marvel was being pointed out yesterday. AI chips. It still keeps gapping up and coming in. Has a, it's been a laggard. TEM is interesting, I guess. To me, I got stopped out of it. Why did I get stopped out of it? Because I was playing for it to hold here and break above 66. Instead, it came back in the base. So again, not everything is going nuts. It's very selective. So you got to kind of stay with what's working. All the TV wants you to say is, Mag 7's doing too much of the heavy lifting. The market's not good because of this. But the market's really good if you're in those names and you're not trying to be too cute and you're trying to follow your process. Scott, I really appreciate your honesty, Trey. No, it's not an easy game. And I've been doing this for 28 years. Why do you think I get up every day at 4:45 and I started Red Dog Mindset? I've seen thousands of traders come and go. I've seen great traders who have made millions all of a sudden parking cars out in the Hamptons. I've seen them. I've seen it all. For me, I try and be a singles and doubles hitter, consistent over time. I get up every day. I've been doing a workout every morning to clear my head, to think about my positions, to get ready. That's what the 20-5-20 is. That's what the subscribe button is for Red Dog Mindset. Showing the pregame of the pregame, my process to have me feeling good so I could be here for 25 minutes with you guys going over the X's and O's, no matter what's happening. So basically, if you've been watching the 630 Club and have made good money, whether it's the Blood on the Street account, sticking with your long-term plans, giving you really good trades. We've had in the last month, I think we were 18 for 20 with really good money trades. So if anything, come the fall or soon, we're going to be merging the 25-20 with the 630 Club. And if you want to be grandfathered in, you better subscribe. But anyway, I've seen a lot of guys look at the same charts and you want ASTS, and some execute correctly, some don't. Some chase, some have too many shares, all the things that you need to do as a trader. Some stop playing ASTS here because they got them again and they didn't go back here. and then they finally chased it up here, and instead of buying it down there. Anyway, at this point, ASTS, I've been accumulating a little bit into the 21-day. It's been holding the 21-day, really nice trend. I would think at some point, probably will take time. It keeps raising money because that's what it has to do. If you're a futuristic company that's going to be putting satellite all over space so you don't get drop calls or whatever, you got to raise money. Anyway, I'm buying it to here, and at some point it continues. This was $1 million trade for many people out there, or a few thousand, whatever it was for you. But again, most people got worn out. Not if you had the red dog mindset and you went back to it. It wasn't ready when you were ready and bought it here, through here, whatever it was. You got to think even kill. Don't go on tilt today because you didn't have Meta and Microsoft. Think about what could be next. And if the market shows you it is, go with it or figure out how you could approach it. Zach says, you see ASTS 70? Could be. SoFi was a good trade yesterday. I didn't trade SoFi yesterday. That's a good thought. It did a topping tail, and then I heard it did a money raise like at 2085, and I was buying it, right around there, and it gave you a nice little trade. You could have bought SoFi in the hole, with the guys who, did the deal. So if you sold into strength or you didn't even play it yesterday, there was a decent little money trade there into the 21-day. So there's lots of ways to approach names, make your money the way you like to, and then learn how to make it other ways. Anyway, I got to jump. Holy cow. I'm only supposed to be doing this for 20 minutes and not 30. So anyway, listen, a lot of year left, my doggies. July is almost over. July is usually one of the strongest months out there. August sometimes gets a little volatile, and then September historically is not so great. So just make sure you don't get ahead of yourself. I'll see you guys later.